going on, everyone? It's Jeannie here, and today I'm so happy to be sitting down, chatting it up with someone I highly respect and admire and just love his work, his music, but also his heart and the stuff that he just does for the community. He is coming out with a new album, Restoration. Y'all already know, Grammy Award winning founder of Reach Records, Lecrae, is in the building. Thanks, Lecrae, for
Thank you.
joining me.
Goodness, thank you. You're too kind with that introduction, but I appreciate it.
I missed a lot of things, man. You've been doing incredible things, and I've been watching The Road to Restoration, which is the video that you released on YouTube, and it's just, I have been enjoying getting a glimpse into, every time I've seen you, it's been on a stage or at an award show or running around, as the artist. But I loved that you led us into a place that I don't think we've been privy to before. Your home, your life. Talk about that and wanting to open up that door to us.
Yeah, I just think it was time. I wanted people to be able to see who I was as a human being, and that's really a large part of my being restored, and my faith being restored, my mental, emotional, spiritual self finding healing there was being free to not be a caricature, being free to be all of myself, and to let people see that for who I was.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because, you talk about very vulnerable issues that I think at one point or another, we all will face it. We might not walk the same exact road, but dealing with that success and just getting caught up in success, and then dealing with, tragedy or chaos happening, depression setting in. I do want to talk a little bit about, the fame, and you start us off with giving us the accolades and all the things. I mean, first of all, teenage Lecrae was adorable. your little voice is all different, but I mean, how was it for you realizing, dang, the things that I wanted to fulfill, I did?
That was crazy to me. Watching it was the first time I realized that all those things being put together. And so that was mind blowing. I had to take a minute and be like, wow, God is good. Thank you, Mom, for supporting me. And yeah, it was just kind of crazy to realize that. It made me more grateful. It made me more appreciative of, some of the things that I've gotten to experience in life. But then at the same time, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it, and it comes with some. It doesn't always come in the way you think it will.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but I used to be a pop star and I had a big single and I traveled the world. The same thing, I had these big dreams and I fulfilled the dreams, but I got bit with that fame bug, and I wasn't a Christian. So, it was different. Like, I was pursuing things that were not of God. But I wanted to ask you, as a man of faith, in the midst of this fame, how was it for you? Do you feel like that's what happened to you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Nobody's immune from, especially somebody like myself who experienced a lot of trauma as a kid. So there's a lot of insecurities. You haven't dealt with the fact that you feel like you're unwanted, and so every award you win, every song that hits the charts, is feeding you a lie of, this is where your value comes from. This is where your worth comes from. And so, you don't realize that. It's very subtle, but it starts to take root in your heart. And if you don't have the tools to fight it, then it really does, you know, take a toll on you. And now you're wrestling with trying to keep your worth and keep your worth intact. So everything is not about doing things out of love and out of freedom and out of faith. It's doing things out of, I have to perform to be loved, because if I don't perform, I will not be loved. And that's the lie you start believing.
So what freed you from that?
Yeah, there's a saying that freedom takes an instant. um, to take somebody out of slavery. You know, it takes an instant, but it takes a lifetime to take the slavery out of the person.
Mm.
And so it took work and time to get a different perspective. First, it had to be revealed to me that that was even something I was struggling with. Um, and honestly, the wake up call for me was waking up in a clinical depression. You know, it was like I am I something is wrong with me. You know, it wasn't like I'm sad. It was like I have no ability to enjoy things. It was just a mask. Then I was like, "Yo, what is this?" And I couldn't shake it. And I was like, something's wrong with my brain. And I just could not shake it. And as I got scared about it, then the anxiety crept up. So now it's depression and anxiety. And I think God just put me on my back in order to give me the opportunity to say you're going to have to take a deeper look at yourself and some of the issues that you have, the trauma that you have, and really do some work internally.
You know, I heard you talk about it in the YouTube Road to Restoration, and you know, I thought my husband's a pastor, so we constantly are talking to people that have struggled with trauma and they're battling depression, especially now during this quarantine. It's been
Hmm.
really accelerated. And what I'm constantly recognizing is that people don't want the process. They want that
Mm,
instant, like, well, why isn't God answering me right now? You know,
hmm.
like I'm asking him to fix it. You know, why isn't he doing it? And you know, I wanted you to kind of unpack that a little bit, the process and the importance of actually going through the process of restoration, because I do find, I mean, it's in our generation and everyone coming after us, they're
Yeah.
looking for that instant fix. And when Jesus doesn't answer it instantly, then it becomes that thing between them and God. Can you please
Hmm.
like unpack that?
Yeah, I mean, the I said it in the doc, but the thing I learned is God is not transactional; He's relational. So, you know, He doesn't snap His fingers. He could, but typically He doesn't snap His fingers and make it go away. He walks with you through it. And the reason why that is because that's how the relationship is developed. If he just snaps his fingers, you don't really appreciate him. You don't develop a relationship with him. You don't learn how you and him are interconnected. You just have a genie now, and you have a microwave. You push a button, and then your food comes out. But he's saying, no, I want to cook in the kitchen with you. I want to chop up the onions with you. I want to handle everything with you. This is a bonding opportunity for us, and I want you to see how I'm going to work in and through you, and I want you to appreciate how much I care for you and I love you. So it's just different. You know, another way I would say it is it's like getting sick with the flu, and you've got someone there who is making you soup, bringing you something to drink, rubbing your feet, changing your covers. That makes you greatly appreciate them for how they're by your side. And I think that's what God is trying to do for us in that moment. And really us wanting it to go away quickly really shows us how much more we need to develop that closeness with God than we have in the past.
Yeah, and I love that. You know, I've been listening to some of the tracks that you're releasing on the record, and you know, you're really getting vulnerable, and I think there's such
Mm.
strength in that. You know, you're a black man. I'm a
Mm.
Latina, so I know in my culture, you know, they're just like, what y'all doing with all that? Like, don't bring all these emotions in it. Don't be so open. And I find it so sad, you know, that
Mm.
we're kind of conditioned this way, because I find that there is freedom and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what you're saying. Talk about being so open
Mm.
in your tracks. I know there's a book as well, and I know that's going to be way even deeper. And then in
Mhm.
the video, oh my gosh, you and your father sitting down, like it was hard to watch. Like I
Mm.
can't even imagine being you. But talk about
Yeah.
the beauty of being vulnerable as a man of God, and in your music and everything to come.
I think on a very practical level, um, you're not going to heal until you can acknowledge what's going on with you. And the message, I hope people don't hear me saying you have to be vulnerable with the world in order to be healed. But I didn't mind doing that for the sake of other people. That's something that I chose to do. But you do have to be vulnerable with somebody. You do have to be vulnerable with close friends, with a therapist, with your spouse, so that you can experience real healing. You're going to have to be fully known in order to be fully grown. I mean, that's
Mm,
just what's going to have to happen. So I wanted to model that. I think Jesus models it perfectly by him in the garden sweating and asking, could his friends stay up and pray with him? That's some serious vulnerability. He didn't say, "Oh man, I got this. It's nothing." I mean, you sure you're okay, Jesus? Yeah, I'm good. It's nothing. It's like, no, I am stressed out. I am afraid, and that is a picture for us. That's a model for us to follow. It's just to admit where we are. All the Psalms written in the Bible are just full of vulnerability, and so that's a model for us to follow. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, was just was let people know, hey, listen, this is where I'm at. And the last reason I'll say I wanted to do that as well is because I'm a public figure, and when you're a public figure, there's a tendency to believe that they have it all together or they're invincible. And I just wanted to tear that down. When I saw people tearing down Aisha Curry for her being honest in an interview, I thought to myself, that's so messed up that she doesn't have a safe place to be free without people tearing her down. It's so messed up that people we're just objects and we're not people anymore.
mm.
So.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm,
I think that people like you are really changing the game. I think we're going to be entering into an era where that facade of, the star not being able to be human is just being stripped away. And I guess social media has helped, right, with that, and allowing artists to really be very vulnerable, in front of everyone. You also touch on something that I've never heard you talk about, and the reality of your marriage, and the beauty of it, but also the trials that happened. I don't think you've ever said anything like that, and I want you to touch on it because we're in quarantine. And I can't
mm,
tell you, well, we're coming out of quarantine, but you know what I mean?
mhm.
All these restrictions and us having to be home and stay home with each other. I can't tell you how many people we've been having to counsel and help them not go towards divorce in this season.
Mm,
And I feel like it came to a head for you
mhm,
in a moment where everything else was piling up. And
mhm.
I know there's a lot of people right now that feel that way. Can you talk
Yeah.
about the road to restoration, even in marriage?
Oh man, there's no marriage that is beyond restoration, and so hear me when I say that. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen overnight, and it doesn't mean it'll happen in a year. Um, if I'm to be completely honest, it took us years to get to a breaking point. It took us years of just kind of like going through the motions and not really dealing with all the little, I would say like the small the pileups over the years, not dealing with those until eventually it's like you're playing a game of Jenga. You just keep stacking up little stack, and then one year they just tumble. And I think you know ours tumbled, but God is a restorer, and so regardless of the circumstance or situation, He can put things back together the right way. And so, what I would tell people is that, you know, if you have not exhausted yourself with counseling, with working on yourself, then you haven't given it everything you got. You know what I mean? If you're not, because you can't change another person, but you can work on yourself in that process, and maybe in working on yourself, you learn how maybe you were contributing to the trauma and the problems in the household, or learning about yourself, maybe you realize you know you're being stepped on and you're not saying something about it, and you have more value and worth than you even understand. So there's a lot in that process as well. But listen, there's no marriage that's beyond restoration. Like, God can do it, sincerely, and I just want to give people that hope. And if you already made a decision to get divorced, restoration's still possible, for you as well. And so I want people to know that as well. There's still hope.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, just thinking of the concept of restoration in your own process, why do you think restoration is so important to God?
Hmm. I think that's a great question. You know what's crazy to me is that that restoration is a perfect picture of love and grace. It's a perfect picture of like I tell my kids this all the time. You know, he's a father, and so I tell my kids, "There's nothing you can do to make me love you more or less." And I want them to know that like they can never go too far to where I'm like, I don't love that kid anymore, right? Or they don't have to perform for me to where I'm be like, all right, I think I love them more now because they did this thing. And God is more perfect than I am. And there's nothing we can do to make him love us more or less. There's no situation that we're in that he's not wanting to help us through. Psalm 23, it says, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And when it says follow me or pursue me, it means like a hunter pursuing prey. Like God is chasing you down with goodness and mercy. And so that's just something that I think we have to remember in the middle of all of the storms and problems that we're experiencing is that God has not left us. He's chasing behind us with goodness and mercy and restorative work for our lives.
Amen. When you were being transparent about your depression and during that time, just realizing how disenfranchised we become with even the church or the Christian circles and all of that. I do want to say I thank God for hunting you, hunting after you and just and look at the product, the testimony that's coming forth out of all this. And the good thing is that he continues to do so. In this time of standstill, in this time of quarantine for a time or restriction, what's new? What's something new that God has kind of revealed to you? I mean, you're not Lecrae that's on the road every second right now either. So
Yeah.
yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think one thing that he showed me is that it's okay to be still. It's okay to be still and know he's God. It's okay to not be busy every 5 seconds. It's okay spend time in being present. You can be present when you're not flying all over the country, all over the world. You can be present. And so that's something that I've learned is to be present, is to be available. You know, uh, right before you and I started talking, my son came in and said, "I made this Hot Wheel thing. Do you want to see it?" I said, "Yeah. As soon as I'm done, I'll come check it out." But if I was in New York on a press run, I wouldn't be able to do that. So that's given me that opportunity, and also to see what you need and you don't need. Many of us, um, you know, I'll do one better to see that God provides for our needs. And I've learned that as well, is that many of us are not in the positions that we were in prior to this, but God is still good. He's still the same yesterday, today, and forever. So we'll be okay, and and we don't know what the future holds, but we know we can hold on to His promise. We know who holds the future.
Yeah, amen. All right, last thing, and I was a little sad, but I want you to clarify it. I heard you talking to my friend Justin at Rapzilla.
Yeah.
You leaving? You retiring us from us? What's
I
happening?
what I definitely say this. I'm okay if I don't ever tour again. You know what I'm saying? I'm fine never touring. It doesn't mean I won't do shows. It doesn't mean that, but I guess what I'll say more than anything is that if if this is my last album, I'm okay with that. If I'm okay if I never tour again. I'm very content. I'm in a good space. I love creating music. I'll probably create music forever, but I don't have to make albums. I may make a song here. I may feature on somebody's project. I may do a mixtape or something, but I know I don't have to make an album. After I get on the road again in 2021, um, I don't. I'm pretty sure I don't need to do a 50 city tour again. And so there's just so many other things that I've been able to explore while I've been here that I
Mhm.
think God is moving me into.
Well, we have a couple minutes, so I want to hear what are some other things that you feel. I got to tell you, I've heard you preach a couple of times, video clips and stuff, and I mean, the Lord really uses you in that. So I love to see you, coming forth in that. But what are some of these other things that you feel like maybe you'll delve into, or you feel like God is actually, steering you into?
Yeah, I think you know, I, I think when you are the engine behind your own kind of career, um, you don't have as much time to get behind other people's careers. And
Mhm.
so, there's some things I want to get behind, some people, some educational gaps I want to close for some kids, some financial gaps I want to close for some communities, some artists that I really want to get spend more time pushing and getting behind. And so if I'm not constantly worried about my projects and what I got going on, then I can get behind some other people and push their things. And so that's kind of the lane that I feel like I'm moving in.
I love that. It's amazing because I can't remember when's the first time I talked to you, but it was some albums ago. And
Hmm.
it wasn't the very beginning, but it was somewhere in the middle of the fame for you. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at you and I'm hearing you, and I can hear the growth and what God has done. And
Mm.
it's beautiful. Like
Oh,
I
wow.
can see the restoration.
I
Is there
appreciate
anything
that.
else that you want to add and share with us?
Hey, I just want people to have hope, man. I'll tell you this, I've said it before, but the tomb is empty, y'all. Tomb is empty. And so, regardless of what's going on around us, death is defeated and nothing we're dealing with is bigger than death. And if death is defeated, then everything else with it, it doesn't have as much power. So be encouraged.